Hi everyone, it's David Wheeler at Wycombe Wanderers and you're listening to the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome along to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Luke, who produces the programme, was playing around with an AI app a little earlier on and got it to come up with its own opener for the show. I must admit it was very impressive, but we didn't write it down or save it, so we'll have to stick with what we've got. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in the next hour, we'll, in a few moments' time, hear from Phil with a match debrief. We'll look back at that fantastic 2-0 victory against Portsmouth at Adams Park last Sunday lunchtime. We'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth, get his reaction, and look ahead to the trip to Lincoln on Saturday as well. Also, we'll get his thoughts on a hospital visit that he and a number of current players, as well as Andrew Harmon, who you might remember played for the club in the 80s as well, made to Wycombe Hospital and gave over 200 toys to the children there as well, and had some presents for the staff as well. Also coming up, we'll speak live to defender Jack Grimmer. We'll hear from former midfielder Stuart Lewis, and we'll catch up with Jamie Bailey, who you may or may not know is the Wycombe Wanderers Women Wycombe Wanderers Women. It's not that hard to say, is it, Colin? We're reserves manager. Maybe in the podcast that bit will be tidier, I'm not sure. But all that and more to come in the next hour or so. But we kick off with some highlights from Sunday.
Good afternoon and welcome to Adams Park. League One action on a Sunday lunchtime. Wycombe Wanderers taking on Pompey. Wycombe have had a break of 15 days after no FA Cup action for them last week. Tapazzoli heads the ball down to a beater. Scowen, that's a nice pass to McCleary. Here's Mametti, his first touch in the game. Cuts the ball back to Hanlon, early doors. Drops to Scowen. First time right-footed shot. Hits the roof of the stand, much to the delight of the Pompey fans. But Wycombe Wanderers there, looking slick in the final third.
Yeah, Scowen got it all wrong with the shot, but before that was really, really good down this left-hand side. Great build-up.
Wheeler gets up well, finds Hanlon in the box. Hanlon lays it down to Mametti. Oh yes, Anis Mametti, 8th goal of the season. Wycombe direct knocks it down, and the little Albanian smashes it into the top corner. One for the cameras. Wycombe 1, Pompey 0. A beater and Wing again. Not much of an angle to work with. It's Wing who just dinks it over the top. Tapazzoli heads the ball down to Mawson. Oh, it's a post. Mawson inches away from his first Wycombe goal and his second spell at the club. It's hit the inside of the post and it's been cleared out for a corner. Wycombe's second corner of the game. Oh wow, what a strike.
Small margins, isn't it? It just went straight against the post. There was no curl on the ball, it just went straight. So if it had a little bit of curl on it, it might have clipped the inside of the post and gone in. Great strike by Mawson, by the way.
Mametti dancing his way through. He's inside the penalty area. Mametti still going. Shot charged down by Raggett in the end, but they're petrified of him. Controls with ease and he's now running at Robertson. He's inside the area. Mametti checks it back, cuts it back now. McCleary! There's the second. Anis Mametti scores one, creates one. Gareth McCleary strokes it into the bottom corner, and the second goal that Wycombe were threatening has arrived. Wycombe Wanderers 2, Portsmouth 0. Mametti and Scowen combine in the midfield. Through to Wing now, Wing can seal it. Oh, brilliant save. Brilliant save from Griffiths. Griffiths pings the ball out. Still Pompey persist, and the final whistle goes, and Wycombe Wanderers have got that clean sheet. But more importantly, they've got the 3 points. It's been 15 days since the defeat at Cheltenham. Gareth Ainsworth said it had come at a good time, and he's delivered on those words because they've gone back to the drawing board. They've changed it up today, and Pompey weren't expecting it, and Wycombe Wanderers' intensity, I think, won the game today.
Yeah, oh, definitely. As I just said a few minutes ago, it was like having the old Wycombe back, wasn't it? They sort of come into the game maybe as the underdog. They loved that, and they just got about Portsmouth right from the very first whistle, got in their faces, hassled them, played the ball long and got in behind them. You know, Mametti superb, Scowen superb, so many decent performers from a Wycombe perspective today.
Leave you on the final score here from Adams Park. Wycombe Wanderers 2, Portsmouth 0.
Match commentary from Sunday brought to you by Phil Catchpole, of course, who's the Wycombe Wanderers head of audio and broadcast presenter of Ring in the Blues, and also, of course, match commentator ably assisted there by Brian Jeeves. I'm very pleased to say we can speak to Phil and reflect on what was a fantastic, eventful afternoon at Adams Park.
Yeah, a brilliant day on Sunday. Perfect for Wycombe Wanderers because
the Sky cameras were in town, so it wasn't just your Wycombe and Pompey fans watching that. That was the only domestic game on TV that day. So it's a really good showcase for League One, but more importantly, a fantastic showcase for Wycombe Wanderers, because the extra cameras and extra innovative things they did, I think really showed Wycombe Wanderers in a good light. But everything's better after a victory, and I think on the pitch, I think they were superb.
And a number of players obviously, did themselves no disservice at all, including one, of course, who a lot of fans have been talking about since. Yeah,
Anis Vermetti, I think, like I say, I've just referenced the guys who maybe not watching Wycombe week in, week out, but they would have enjoyed his performance on Sunday. But to be brutally honest, he's been doing that all season. It was a standout performance on Sunday, definitely, and was rightly given the man of the match. The goal was wonderful, fantastic strike. He was unlucky not to get another one in the first half, and then the assist. But there were several sort of dazzling runs, and the Pompey fans looked terrified of him whenever he had the ball, as did their defenders. But I've said countless times over the last couple of years, he's a sort of player that people pay money to watch, and he puts you on the edge of your seat. But yeah, if he's added some value to his transfer fee, whenever that may come, by that performance on Sunday, then that's a good thing for the club as well. And yeah, obviously Wycombe fans will hope he's in a Wycombe shirt for as long as possible. But equally, we've got to remember this guy came in through the development squad for nothing, has been developed into an all-round footballer now. He's learnt the dirty side of the game of Gareth Ainsworth, and he's become a huge asset. And where Wycombe are in the food chain in football, that's how it works. So I think it's a lovely problem to have, the fact that we're talking about speculation about whether he'll be here or not. It means he's been playing well and he's been doing good things for Wycombe.
And plenty of other members of the team doing particularly good job on that afternoon as well.
Yeah, team performance from 1 to 11. I thought Big Max in goal didn't have to do much, but in the second half when he was called into action was spot on, clearly inspired by his musical choices before the game. But 1 to 11, I thought they were excellent. They defend as a unit, but the back four looked solid. Tafazoli and Mawson, I think that could be a really key relationship as the season unfolds. If both of those can stay fit and they play games together, that could be really exciting for Wycombe Wanderers. But Josh going in front is back to his best, and we're led to believe that Curtis Thompson, Dominic Gape aren't far away as well to add more competition and options in that position. But yeah, 1 to 11, I thought they were superb, and special shout out to Jack Grimmer as well, because I thought defensively superb, back to his best. But he also gave him a lot of problems going forwards. But Gareth Ainsworth doesn't like to single out players, and he was purring about the performance when I spoke to him after the game.
It's nothing surprising to me. We've got that in us, we know we have this season. Peterborough here, again, Portsmouth here. I thought that we could have had more goals. Not to rub salt in anything, but I thought we could have been 3 or 4 today, and no one would have grumbled. I thought the boys were outstanding. What we worked on in the week, the pressing, the pace in that front three to start with was superb. And Anis Vermetti, he's causing all sorts of problems to all sorts of defenders. Outstanding game he had. But, the solidity of Yalfi and Taff at the back, the leaders that I was asking for, felt like we had those back today, and we felt like we were solid. We were going to soak up whatever you needed to chuck at us, and we had the chance to go and score goals. And I'm really proud of the boys today. They were superb and got nothing more than they deserved, and in front of hopefully a good audience on Sky TV.
A goal from Anis Vermetti, a fabulous strike, an assist, and a dazzling performance at times as well, in front of the TV cameras a month before the transfer window opened.
Anyone wants to put 5 or 6, 7 million in, then we might consider letting him go. But he's an unbelievable talent. This boy we picked up on trial 2 years ago. From he'd been at Norwich, he'd been at I think Spurs and a couple of London clubs, and then he ended up playing a game for Woodford Town at Step 9. The story is immense. He's learnt his trade, playing in the little tight cages in London, and you can see that on the pitch. He feels like he's got his own ball. He just wants to play these ridiculous things that I can't coach, but I can get him the position to receive the ball and hopefully do some magic. He certainly showed up today, but he had a great platform. A clean sheet, and 10 lads who are going to fight and scrap and do everything they can to give my match winners the platform. And Anis was certainly a match winner today.
Did the match-winning start before the team sheets went in? Because I don't think Pompey expected Sam Vokes to be on the bench today.
No, and it was probably one of the worst kept secrets at Wycombe's training ground. I was telling everyone, if this gets out, then there'll be hell to pay. But I decided that Pompey may go big against us. It's Wycombe. We seem to have this tag that we're super physical, and everyone needs to put big players against us. So I went quick. I went pacey up front, and hopefully that made a little bit of a difference and got us up the pitch a bit higher. We were able to turn their back four who don't like being turned. You know, they like things being played up to them. If Sam Vokes starts, we're probably playing up to them and playing to their strength. Whereas when we can get down the sides and playing behind with Brandon, with Anis, with Gareth, with Wheeler, I mean, we have chances then to utilise that spacing behind a big back four, which Danny started with, a big back five actually. You know, he threw me with a little bit of a shape there. But no, as performances go, it's right up there this season, and I've just said to the boys, you can do this. It's not surprising me because I know what I've got in this dressing room. We can do this week in, week out. We've got some tough games coming up now, but we always seem to turn up in the big games, and we'll with 3 points for us today.
Really great to hear. Obviously, the manager always so positive, but interesting that he brought up the fact that it wasn't a performance that surprised him.
No, and he'd have been working incredibly hard along with his staff to get that Cheltenham defeat and performance out of their system. But he'd have also known as well that the results at home had been disappointing of late, and he owed the home fans, the home faithful, a decent performance and, more importantly, a win. And he delivered on both of those fronts. So hopefully this can be the platform now for something that Wycombe haven't been able to do this season, and that is go on a long, consistent run. The away form's really coming together if you take out the Cheltenham game. If they can then start to back that up with home results as well, even though they've not got going really in terms of a consistent run of results, they're still in touch at the top, and that will be encouraging. But there's probably 10 teams in the table who can say the same thing. He's often said about the second half of the season, the big players are back. We've got more coming as well. So fingers crossed it's all set for a barnstorming finish as it was last season.
You often hear people say, don't you, that it's tight at the top or it's tight at the bottom, also fairly tight in the middle as well.
Yeah, a couple of results either way, and it's really frustrating football, isn't it? Had we won the Cheltenham game, we'd be right knocking on the door of that top six already. But equally, there's probably a few other teams saying exactly the same thing, but really fine margins in football as ever, but they're incredibly fine this year in League One. And I think if Wycombe can just find that consistency, they'll be all right.
I think as fans as well, you find yourself, don't you, pointing to moments in previous games. There's been Sam Vokes goals which have been ruled out, and other kind of key times at games which you thought if only, and could have had a few extra points. Yeah,
the if only, the mantra of all football fans up and down the country. But yeah, we've all looked through key incidences, results, performances, games and gone, if only this, if only that. It's one of those, isn't it? But I think looking forwards, they're in a decent position. They haven't got going yet properly in their own style. I think they'd admit that as well. And when they do, I think that the stage is set perfectly for, as Gareth Ainsworth calls it, a fantastic second half of the season. And I hope he's right.
Because that's something, as you say, he's been really sort of flagging up to be judged on that second half.
Yeah, I think he realised that the key injuries to certain players, the timing of it as well, like having Scow and Gape and Thompson all out at the same time, has been particularly cruel. I think the fact we've now got Tafazoli back regularly alongside Alfie Mawson, Vokesy up top and available, although he didn't play him against Pompey at the start. And I think as well, teams coming to Wycombe Wanderers were kind of knowing what to expect after always saying we know what to expect against Wycombe and then losing. I think finally managers have started to realise what it takes to beat the Wycombe of old. And it was interesting on Sunday against Pompey. Gareth Ainsworth tweaked it a bit and caught them all by surprise and got the 3 points. So hopefully they'll be second guessing again.
And Saturday's opposition, another of those teams who are in that pack.
Yeah, it's really tight. They could overtake Wycombe Wanderers on Saturday if they win, and that's always a great incentive going into a game, isn't it? If you think you can catch the team above you and overtake them, and they haven't lost at home all season in the league. They've drawn a lot. Mark Kennedy's an old teammate of Wycombe manager Gareth Ainsworth from their time at Wimbledon. He's played top flight football, international football, and he's, after a sticky start, has found his feet. It's going to be tough, this game against Lincoln. They always are. I mean, I don't think I've seen us win there for quite some time. They tend to be draws of late. And like I said, Lincoln love a draw at home already this season. So we'll see. But hopefully with the confidence and momentum from Sunday, Wycombe can deliver another big performance on Saturday at Sincil Bank in what is already, I'm worried about the weather, it's going to be freezing.
And as well, it's easy to say, isn't it, but going into the festive period, there's a key run of fixtures coming up, but going to the festive period, there is really a key run of fixtures coming up.
Christmas is so important to, not just to the psyche of the fans for getting out and getting to games, but in terms of the fact that a week over Christmas you can play like three or four games within a short space of time. And if you can win all of those, it can give you a massive injection in the league. And likewise, if you lose them all, then you can really drop down like a stone. And in this league, the way it is, it's so tight. I think if Wycombe have a good festive period, they could be really, possibly even above the dotted line going into the new year. You never know. But yeah, like we say, it's I don't want to sound too much like a footballer, but take each game as it comes. But and to use another phrase, they come thick and fast at this time of year as well.
But looking ahead briefly, there's the likes of Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth after the Portsmouth display. Nothing to fear really.
Well, they're big teams, and Wycombe will go into some of those being the underdog, which, as we all know, completely suits the narrative at Wycombe Wanderers. We like being the underdog. Perhaps, with all due respect, against the likes of Cheltenham, Forest Green, Cambridge and Port Vale at home, we may have been seen as the favourites in those, and it didn't really work out that way. But we were the second favourites against Pompey, and look what happened.
And I understand you won't be visiting any service stations this weekend?
No, I'm going by train on Saturday, and that's the one drawback of the train service in this country. When they are running, is they don't stop at the services.
Brilliant speech. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Great
to chat to Phil and have him on the show. As always, he'll be providing match commentary on Saturday from Lincoln, accompanied by Gabe Sutton as well. And you can hear the interview with Gareth in full, of course, on Wanderers TV. Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from former captain and midfielder Stuart Lewis, and we'll hear more from manager Gareth Ainsworth, as well as we look ahead to the trip to Lincoln. But if you're listening to our chat with Phil a short while ago, as well as praising Anis Mehmeti, he gave a special mention to defender Jack Grimmer for his performance against Portsmouth on Sunday at Adams Park, and it'll be fantastic if we can actually speak to the man himself. Hello, sir.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Really good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well.
Really nice for you to get that sort of praise, and I know you got a lot of online credit as well for your performance on Sunday, but not just yourself, but it felt like the whole team, everything sort of came together.
Yeah, it did. It was one of those games that I think just everything seemed to go in our favour, and I think we all just seemed on the same page, and it's few and far between, but it's really good when games come off like that, for sure.
Because it seems sort of unjust, doesn't it, football? And as a player as well, you often find that in certain games you put in really brilliant performances, but perhaps don't get the results that you deserve. And sometimes you've got to grind out results from perhaps not very good displays as well.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think, unfortunately, this season, I think the league in general is so competitive, as I heard Phil alluding to. But I think this season we've just maybe lacked that consistency that we've had in previous seasons. And I think it makes you appreciate it even more, I think, on Saturday when it all comes together and you get the 3 points. Because I think just a few times this season we've maybe fell short. And, sometimes the performance is there and then you don't win. Other times you win when you don't deserve to. So I think when the cameras were there and everyone was watching, I think it was a great day for us to get the 3 points.
And do you as players really relish, the visit of Portsmouth, and obviously got Ipswich coming as well? Clearly you only take one game at a time, but I guess you have half an eye on some of the teams that are coming in the Christmas period as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Christmas period is quite a tough time for us. I think we've got, some tough away games going into the new year, Plymouth and Peterborough. Like you say, Ipswich coming to town, which, I think last season they brought a massive following. So that's the games that you want to play in. For myself, and since I've been at Wycombe, we've always relished, I think being the underdog suits us, and we've always relished that challenge to step up. And I think, like I said, if we can just get a bit more consistency about us, I think we can have a very successful season.
A lot to be made, obviously, about the sort of size of the character and players that kind of left in the summer for different reasons. But have you felt perhaps a bit of extra responsibility yourself as well with kind of the role that you play as a result of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's no secret as to the sort of characters. Whatever those players did on the pitch, it was the biggest loss to us was in the changing room. And I think it is time for other players like myself, hopefully to step up to fill the roles that they've left. The gaffer's spoken about it a good few times, and leaders are hard to come by in football. So it is as hard as they were to replace, or as hard as they are to replace. Sorry, I think it's just a stepping stone for other players to step into their shadows.
And as well, you might have heard Phil mention a little earlier on, obviously your defensive display on Sunday was excellent, but also going forward, that must be something you enjoy as well.
It is, to be honest. Yeah, I think. As a defender, obviously your job is first and foremost to stop attacks, which seems sort of less constructive. But I think the more enjoyable part of it is definitely starting attacks or, breaking forward. And the thing I loved is when you break forward, you're running forward and you hear the crowd roar, and it's a feeling that can't be replaced. And doing your bit to keep a clean sheet is obviously the first and foremost the best thing for the team. But if you can help contribute to a goal in any way, then it's goes a long way to helping 3 points.
And a lot was made on Sunday about the extra access and the innovation on TV. Was that something you were aware of as players, or did you kind of just sort of block that out, really?
Yeah, we got told about it in the build up to the game, and the minute you walk in the change room, it was slightly different because there was cameras there. There was normally the change room is your sort of domain that no one kind of bothers you and no one's asking you questions, and you can just sort of focus on the game. But I think on Saturday, there was reporters and journalists and things in the changing room, and the cameras were there for the full time, which I didn't actually mind, to be honest. I think it is good from a player's point of view. I think the more you can include the fans, the better, I think, and I think I watched the game back on Sky and I seen the different kinds of access that they were getting, even down to the referees meeting before the game, which I thought I'd never seen before, which I think it's only a good thing. And I think it's definitely the way football's going. So I think if there's players out there that probably don't think it's a good thing, then they probably just have to get on board.
It really does make you appreciate the role of the referee as well, and the positions that he needs to get into, and obviously, where he goes depends on what the play's doing, obviously. Yeah,
definitely. I think that specific referee that was at our game on Sunday is one that I really get on with, and I think he came across really well in the interview, and it does give you a new appreciation. I'm not going to lie, when I shouted them for getting decisions wrong, I have started to rethink myself sometimes because I do know it's not that easy. And I think opening the door like he did in the interview just shows you that they are human and they are trying their best. And I think it definitely gave me a newfound respect for them.
And something really nice, which seems to have been highlighted this week as well, with that coverage, and also obviously as players going to the hospital, and also you must be so aware of youngsters especially who hang around to see players after the game and get photos and autographs, and what it means to youngsters especially to kind of be close to you as players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was unfortunately ill on Tuesday, so I didn't managed to make the hospital, which I was gutted about because it is something that I love doing. I think any way that you can give back, no matter how small, it might be small to you, but big to someone else. Like you said, when the fans and especially the kids are waiting for us for photos and things at the end of the game, a photo maybe takes 5 seconds, but the kid can have it for the rest of the year. And I think for me, it's always been a factor of anything that you can do that you think gives back, I think, is because at the end of the day, they are paying their money to come support us, and you see the same faces home and away. Like you said, going to Lincoln on Saturday, Phil alluded to it. I think it's going to be probably 1 degree if the game's on, and I think you'll still see the same faces home and away, regardless of the weather or the distance. So I think anything that you can do to give back, no matter how big or small, players should definitely take it upon themselves to do.
So how do you see the challenge on Saturday? Do you as players feel really kind of buoyed from the performance on Sunday at Adams Park?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a sign of the season that we have taken confidence, but I think we've realised already that you can't take anything for granted in this league. I think, Pompey are up there and they've only lost 3 games, but you've got Peterborough that are quite near to them that have lost 8 games already. So I think it just shows you that this season might be a bit of a different one. I think, we've already lost in my opinion, a ridiculous amount of games already. And I think it just shows you that I think we can still achieve. So the league this season is going to be wide open. And I think, yes, we've taken confidence from from Sunday's result. But I think, if anything, this season has shown us not to get complacent.
And the manager speaking to the media this morning, we'll hear more from him soon. But he was saying what a great sort of camaraderie it is, and bonding on the bus when you go to away games. That must be something that you really enjoy as well.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favourite parts of being a footballer is the bus journeys. I think it speaks volumes for me. It speaks volumes of the team and the squad that we've got. That some of the boys will go away and everyone just has such a laugh, and it is. It's a good place to be, and it does help pass the journey because, we don't quite have a Sunderland this season, but, your Plymouths and all that it takes an Exeter early in the season. It does take, you know what, you are away from your family for quite a time. So I think it does speak volumes of the characters that we've got in the changing room, that, you know, people enjoy spending 4 hours on a bus together.
Well, it's been brilliant to speak to you. Obviously, all the best for Saturday. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Nah, top man, mate. Thank you very much.
Real pleasure. Great to chat to you. Jack Grimmer, who obviously put in a fantastic performance on Sunday, and I'm sure we'll be saying the same again next week, this Saturday up at Lincoln as well. Now, though, thanks to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we switch our attention to a former midfielder who captained the side as well, was brought in by Gary Waddock, Stuart Lewis, who is now an under-18s coach at Tottenham. But here's his earliest memories of his time at Adams Park.
Some brilliant memories that I made at Wycombe. Made some great friends in the playing squad who I'm still in contact with now and who I still see regularly, and some great memories on the pitch and some brilliant sort of promotion day at Adams Park, and some great away days and people that the fans that you meet sort of across the country over the years is some really fond memories, obviously captaining the club as well. So Wycombe's a club that I sort of always look out for their results, and obviously I've got a really sort of strong connection with the club.
And you initially came on loan, of course, so I guess it was really pleasing to get that permanent deal as well.
Yeah, obviously I joined from Dagenham. I could have joined in the summer, but at the time I felt obviously wanted to play in League One and sort of play as high as possible, but the opportunity arose again to join Gary Waddock, and he was a manager that I'd always wanted to play under, and I always spoke really sort of freely with him, and he got the best out of me, I feel like, in that loan spell, and I played really well, and straight away it just sort of clicked for me, and we went on a great run, and I think in the January we made it permanent, and it was just a no-brainer really after the sort of level of performances that I hit, and the team were winning, and obviously promotion was on the cards really for the remainder of the season. Unfortunately we did that, but it was a really fond memories of that time, and I look back on it now, and I think it was myself and Josh Parker signed one evening against Torquay, and we were actually I think 2 or 3-1 down, and I came on and I made 2 big tackles, and I remember the crowd sort of must have thought, oh, who's this guy, like, you know, who's coming on the pitch, and I just wanted to make an impression, and Gary Waddock pulled me on the Friday before at Chelmsford at home and said, your tackles changed the game, I felt like, in our favour, and I want you to do that tomorrow, and I think from there I didn't really look back, to be honest.
And I'm sure fans that hear you say Torquay and obviously cast their minds back to when you captained the side on that incredible day. It must have been such a roller coaster of emotions to be part of that team.
Yeah, it was, and I probably look back at it now with sort of mixed emotions, really. I think it was brilliant that we stayed up, and that day was just bizarre, really, because I think sort of we were like waiting on other results, and Gaz said all along that just worry about our results, but probably collectively to be in that position that season was disappointing, and me being captain at that time, I felt that probably took a lot out of me that season, and I took a lot on my shoulders. I was sort of, I look back on it now, like relatively quite young and in my playing career at that time, and I probably took a lot on, and I was disappointed with where we finished really with what I felt like we could have achieved that season. But actually in the collective, looking back on it now, it was good to get that result, and it was a great feeling knowing that we could have been sort of in non-league football.
And it really feels like quite a special group, doesn't it? At that time, obviously, there's Joe Jacobs and Alfie you mentioned, and Josh Scowen's still there at the moment. Yeah,
I think Gareth sort of started to build a real good squad in those days, really. Obviously, Matt Bloomfield was a huge part of that, and was part of the club for a long time. And Josh was sort of starting his career and went on to achieve really good things, and people like Alfie Mawson was a great loan move, and then Joe Jacobson come in, so, and those players obviously some are still there now, and some have come back, so I think what Gaz built was incredible, really, and probably the Torquay was the start of it. And unfortunately for me personally, I left in that January 6 months after that, but I think for what Gareth did and where the club have gone on to has been brilliant, and I'm really pleased to see the Wycombe fans having great moments over the last sort of probably 10 years, and to get to the Championship was brilliant for the club and for the whole area, really.
Did it feel like a real period of uncertainty when Gary left and Gareth took over, or did it feel like something quite exciting and new was starting?
I remember the time quite vividly, actually, because obviously I had a really good relationship with Gary Roddick. I still speak to him now in my career, what I've gone on to. I still speak to him sort of occasionally, and he was a brilliant manager and a brilliant guy. And fortunately, he lost his job at that time. But Gaz was one of us, really, like a member of the team, and he'd played with a lot of the players in that team. And it was just sort of like a natural transition. He'd done something similar at QPR, I think, and I remember at the time the chairman, I think it was the chairman from the trust that asked me my opinion, and I said I think Gareth the more than deserving for the job, and it was just a perfect fit, I think, for what we needed at that time. And then he really got the atmosphere going, and we didn't really look back from that moment, and we stayed up comfortably. So yeah, it was a strange time, but one where I think we all felt that Gaz was the right person for that job, and when asked, we gave our opinions, and I say still there now. So it was probably quite a good bit of advice that the few of us did give those sort of board members at that time.
It's a fantastic sort of, as you say, achievement to see how far the club's gone, and that the manager's been given the time to build what's a brilliant sort of culture at the club as well.
Yeah, I actually went back recently in my job. I'm now under 18 coach at Tottenham, and we went back and we played in the Papa John's there, and to go back was probably the first time I've probably been back since I left. And I think to see how I had spent an hour with Gaz before the game, and I think to the job he's done's been unbelievable, and that longevity in football you don't always get, and probably that's now shown in results and the culture that's been created, and the moments that the club have all shared together. And I think Gaz has epitomised that, and fair play for the backing he's had, because there might have been certain times when he was under pressure and people backed him, and vice versa when he maybe could have moved on and didn't. So yeah, it was great to go back and to see how the club has progressed, and it was great to have a chat with him. And I think now there's analysts, and the staff's got bigger, and it's just obviously that's happening in football, but credit to the club for taking it in the right direction, and I think that's now showing with where it is in the football pyramid.
And there's a really nice bit of symmetry that fans might not be aware of as well, is that when you're in the Spurs setup, you set up yourself, and Peter Sotheby was a coach who, of course, is a former Wycombe manager, and now a job you're doing yourself.
Yeah. Peter Sotheby was the academy manager when I first went to Tottenham as a young player at 16, and he was a brilliant person and someone that was always giving great advice, and was a real support for me and all the players at that time. And then I actually saw Peter when I was playing at Wycombe, and he came back as part of the ex-players association, and a great guy. And it's like quite similar now that I've now gone back to Spurs as a coach, and yes, we've got those Wycombe connections, and yes, it's similar how that's happened.
Do you look back on your playing career with a real sense of pride, because you seem to have achieved so much, even at obviously international youth level, and the clubs that you've been at, and the success that you've had, and as you say, captaining Wycombe as well? Yeah,
of course. Obviously, I look back on it probably now. I have a son now who's 4, and I think he probably doesn't see me as a player, if you like, or he sees me more as like his dad who football coaches and things like that, which is strange at times, because he hasn't seen me in that light. But yeah, I had some brilliant moments, and I look back on it now. A couple of promotions and captaining clubs that I played for, and some great times at Wycombe, and previously before that Gillingham, and then I went into, as I say, sort of non-league football with Maidstone and Dover, and experienced some great times and made some great memories along the way. But like everyone, you reach that point where I had a really big decision to make, where I either went the coaching route at Spurs, or I carried on in non-league. I just felt at that time for my development as a coach, it was right to commit everything to be the best coach I could be. And I retired relatively young at 31, probably had a few more 100 games left in me, but probably the last 3 or 4 years where I've become under 18 coach, and the people I'm surrounding myself by and how I feel like I'm improving, I think it's been the right decision.
What's that transition been like for you from going from player to coach? Is that something that you've really adapted to well and taken on?
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of for the play, we've only just finished playing really, so we'll finish in recent years. So I think it keeps you sort of quite current, and you can. I've been in dressing rooms with players that maybe have come on loan, and I have that context to relate to them and things like that. So I think that's great for me. And then I've also walked in the shoes that the boys are in currently. So I've been a scholar at Spurs, and I've seen the demands and the standards required to get to become a professional footballer at any level is really tough. And I think that can help me to help them ultimately. And I've also been fortunate to work with some great people along the way at Spurs, where I've learnt so much from. And at the moment, obviously, Jermaine Defoe works closely with me, Paul Bracewell, and I've got Ryan Mason and people like that who can only enhance you and my footballing, that development really. So I'm fortunate that I have that every single day that I go to work. So yeah, it's good.
So nice as well for you to be able to kind of pass on what you've experienced in your career, but also for them as well to sort of, as you say, it's not that long ago that you've not been playing, and that makes it really relatable. Yeah,
I think so. I think there's a few things from that, like the experiences, if you like, as well, of what they've got in front of them, and some of the days that I experienced as a player, you can't even put into words. Like when you work so hard for a promotion, or it all comes together on that evening, or the experiences of a Torquay away where you're just thinking, right, there's probably a 90% chance we're going to be non-league club tomorrow, but then unbelievably we stay up. Or the friendships that I've got now, like you're trying to give the lads all those messages of standards and hard work and work ethic, and at some point in the next 10-15 years the experiences they'll get. And football's the best job in the world, isn't it? So it's not really a job really, so it's just saying don't waste a moment, don't waste a session, don't waste a day. And hopefully that those messages from myself and the other staff that I work with can help them on their footballing journey.
And just finally, overall, how do you look back at your time at Adams Park?
Fondly, really. I think fondly. I'm probably disappointed how it ended, if I'm being honest. I think to leave the club probably in January and I think they end up losing to Southend that in that promotion final I'm probably disappointed how it ended, but the part before it was really, really good, and I played some great football there and I enjoyed my time. And as I look back on it fondly, and have made some great mates along the way, and I think the fans and for where the club's gone to now, they thoroughly deserve it. So yeah, really good, and obviously hopefully they can push on this year and get in and around those playoffs and hopefully get back to the Championship in time. So really fondly.
Real pleasure to speak to former midfielder and captain, of course, Stuart Lewis, of course, was in the team who narrowly avoided the drop at Torquay. More from ex-players on next week's show here at Wycombe Sound. Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers show. In fact, we do have another ex-player to speak to in the form of Andrew Harmon, who we've had on the show before, but was part of a brilliant initiative at Wycombe Hospital this week. And if you count the current manager, I've got another former player that we'll have on as well. But first, as we like to feature Wycombe Wanderers Women on the show pretty regularly, you might well be aware already, but there are 3 teams, the under-18s. The first team, of course, which Carl Simon is the manager of, and they had a great result on Sunday as well. We speak to players and coaches as well. Regularly like to raise the profile of Wycombe Wanderers Women. This week it's the turn of the reserves, and I've been speaking to manager Jamie Bailey on his thoughts on how things are going in the reserves.
We got to the top of the league, started off quite well. Slightly had a bit of a moment where we didn't really do too well, but then from then on we've kicked on again for another round of good performances. Really good to start off with.
And really nice as well that the reserve team provides such a great pathway for players to go through to Carl's team as well.
Yeah, it's been amazing just to see the players who have gone up, like Sally, like Kira Leary, players who have had the moment just to come to us and then go straight from there to the first team. And the pathway actually works going forward anyway, because you need sometimes that middle gap, that stop gap, just to try and work out where your levels are at. And then that's where we provided that opportunity for players to have that moment of playing in adult football and then bouncing on into the first team as well.
And what's impressed you the most with the way the players have performed so far this season?
Individual performances have really helped, but I think overall the teamwork within the reserves has been the biggest thing in terms of how we play, what we do in order to ensure that everybody has a good game. Having the chats on the sidelines, making sure that everybody understands their roles going into the game, and also moments where it might be going wrong, but making sure that everybody understands that it's still working in our favour.
And as well, it's the league, obviously, you've had success in the Cup, especially recently, going through on penalties. That must have been a fantastic, great display that pleased you too.
I will probably admit to this one, but I was extremely shocked just simply of the performance, and it was amazing to see. Incredible performance from both teams. In fact, it was a draw to get to penalties, and I think we did all right all the way to the end. But then even better, an incredible performance in the penalty shootout.
And a real great strength to show in the team that, you know, they're doing so well in the league, but also in the cups as well, fighting on both fronts, if you like.
Yeah, it's been one of those where we knew what our targets was for the season, and we've stuck to them as much as possible, making sure that the right players have been in the right places and keeping the camaraderie to a great standard between everybody, regardless of whether they moved into the first team or came back down to us. That's been the whole point of reserves, to be fair. And it's worked in our favour, and we're in a good spot for the rest of the season going forward.
That must really please you as well. That's something which really stands out, the sort of moving in both directions, if you like, and the way that the reserves work in that way.
Yeah, so having players coming from the under-18s, obviously they would have played the day before, just allowing them to sort of understand the environment within adult football and seeing what the differences are, going from youth football to adult football on a Sunday especially, and then coming into us really putting in their marker and saying, I can compete with the players in an adult league, and then having players coming from the first team down and having them still, they might not have the confidence at the time, but coming through to us and saying, you know what, we want to just continue playing football, getting the confidence back to one day, and possibly very quickly get back into the first team. So it's been a good motivation for everybody to come through. With the reserves that have already been there, we're talking about Emma Dean, we're talking about Chelsea Reeves, those within the leadership roles, Ellen as well. We've all had a part to play in the movement of players as well.
And as you say, great opportunity for youngsters in the under-18s to see what they can achieve as well. Yeah,
it gives them a chance. I think some of them have gone on to score goals within our team, Molly Carter being one of them. So it's just been good for us just to try and see where they're at and give the performances that gives Colin a bit of a headache on Sundays to go, well, who's going to be in my team this week?
And it feels like a real sense of togetherness in all levels of the teams, both at the first team, obviously in your group as well, and the under-18s as well.
Yeah, the club's been amazing since I came in. They've really been warm welcoming. The togetherness has been there, and I just love the way that we've all worked as coaches and also as providers of football to all the players that have come in.
And have you noticed, especially since the Euros with the Lionesses doing so well, that there's a real uplift, both in interest in, but also from within the club, where the players wanting to sort of push that extra bit as well?
Yeah, the targets were set from the start, and we still want to achieve them. If it doesn't happen again this season, then we can always reset and go again next season. But either way, everybody wants to improve. Everybody wants to do well. And that's just not from my team. It goes from the first team all the way down to the under-18s as well. I think for me, Christian, Sonny, everybody, Andy as well, have all really driven that idea of wanting to really improve the teams and also the club and the status of the club as well.
Great to chat to Jamie, who's the manager of Wycombe Wanderers Women. Reserves, wish all the best to the Chairgirls this weekend. The first team are at home to current league leaders Abingdon. It's their last fixture of 2022. Do get along to the 1878 Stadium in Burnham. Kick-off there is at 1:30. The under-18s and reserve squads are away, playing Nottingham Forest and Goring United. Wish them all the best too as well. You might have heard in the week that on Tuesday Tuesday afternoon, Gareth and a number of the players went to Wycombe Hospital to give over 200 toys to the children's ward for youngsters who are in hospital over Christmas. Some of the first team that went along included Sam Vokes and Gareth McCleary.
Great to come in and see the donations of the presents as well. For them, it's puts a smile on their face, hopefully, and gets them looking forward to Christmas.
Even for the workers as well, they do like a hell of a job, so to give them a bit of a pick-me-up as well is brilliant. We do know the amount of work that the nurses and doctors do get through, so it's credit to them.
A brilliant initiative arranged by former player and local businessman Andrew Harmon, who was impressed by the reaction of all involved.
The response we got was, how can I put this? It was still quite emotional. Because first of all, we were donating children's toys to the kids in the ward, and I'd got together a Father Christmas to do that, a guy called Neil Stanhope, who did an amazing job for me. He's not a normal Father Christmas, but he stepped in. But the response from the children was fantastic. The response from the mums, and some of them were overcome with emotion, and also actually the people working on the wards, from the porters to the nurses, and the sort of doctors, and just actually it was, a number of them asked for, can we have a photograph with Santa Claus? And it was sort of quite motivational just to give them a little bit of a lift. And so we walked around the wards, a number of wards, just saying hi really, and kind of, if we can do a little thing like that when it's, you know, a tough time at Christmas, that to me is just, you know, it's worth them millions of money, because those people do a sterling job for the community.
And really goes to show as well sort of the power, if you like, of football, and brilliant to be able to have that opportunity in the community. Obviously, as a former Wycombe player yourself, nice to have that kind of link with the local hospital, but also, as I say, to see how much it means to the youngsters when footballers come and you know, spare that bit of time to give them presents as well.
You know what, that was really impressive, and I think they enjoyed it. And one of the guys was playing a little five-a-side game with some of the kids, which was lovely to see. And just, you know, Gareth, I know, has got a great heart of reminding the footballers of the importance of working with the community, and that came across. Just the guys that came to see us were, you know, they were keen to support and learn more. And, you know, I know some of the nurses were keen to get their photos with them. So that was also, so not just Santa, but with the footballers. So that was quite nice.
A great time had by all at Wycombe Hospital this week. Don't know why I found that quite so funny. You can hear more from Andrew if you check out the Listen Again feature on the website. We played out the chat with him in full on this morning's mid-morning at around 10:30. Now, though, we'll cover that subject with the manager in a few moments' time as well. But here's Gareth Ainsworth's thoughts on that fantastic display and result on Sunday against Portsmouth.
Yeah, great performance for us. You know, it's weird because it was Sunday, so we had Monday as a down day, and then Tuesday in training, and today and tomorrow we've got to prepare for Lincoln City. You know, so it's no rest for. Well, it's not the wicked, is it? It's no rest for the successful boys on Sunday. You know, they've got to be back in and make sure that they keep those performance levels consistent, because that was superb. You know, I thought we could have had one or two more goals. Brilliant to have it on TV in front of everyone. Great advert for League One football and definitely for Wycombe Wanderers and what we're doing here. It was a proud moment to beat Portsmouth, where historically that's a team that's come to Wycombe, and it's been, wow, Portsmouth coming to town. I think last few years has been, we can compete with these, and we well showed that on Sunday.
It was interesting in your post-match comments, Lee, it wasn't a surprise to you. It just felt like everything came together, didn't it?
Yeah, we worked really hard in the week. You know, I changed tactics slightly, you know, and it doesn't always work, but when it does, it looks nice and it goes well. And I thought that the boys put in the plan to perfection, really did. You know, it was a real good performance from everyone, and some cracking goals. And you know, Anis again shining as he is doing, coming in form at the right time. But it's a brilliant advert, like I say, for where Wycombe is after years of sort of building and turmoil, and finally becoming this team now that people have got huge respect for.
And what were your thoughts overall on the extra cameras and the extra access on the day?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Colin. Yeah, talking to a bit of an extrovert here, so it's quite at home for me. You know, I think there was certain things I didn't agree to before the game, pre-game, and I'm glad I didn't, because it could have been some sticky moments for me. So everything that I agreed to, I planned well, and I was pleased. Nothing got in the way, and glad to see so many people got so much footage. And it's the way football should go now. I think there's time, and don't be scared of it. Embrace it, but make sure there's the respect line between the content and what's being said. And personal and private moments.
And what was your initial reaction to David Craig's outfit?
Absolute shock. I didn't. I'm not sure it was rock and roll. There's a title in there for it somewhere, but I'm still sussing out what that is in my head without offending anyone. He was a one-off, wasn't he? And the leather jacket. I think he made a brilliant effort, but it was more Lemmy on a bad day than anything. And I've got to say that I think he sticks to his suits and his day job really well. He looked a little bit uncomfortable at times, but I loved him turning up in that. It was a brilliant moment and fun to share the journey in with him.
It did seem quite specialist. It sounds like I guess a bit of a cliche, but would you say Sunday feels a bit of a turning point? So hopefully things can build from here, and you'll get more consistency as well.
No, I don't think it's a turning point at all, Colin. I think consistency is what we need. So that's over a few weeks. You can't just judge it on one game just because you have a real good game, because people would say that I get at Forest Green and then we went to Cheltenham and got beat. So there's no turning points. It's for me, it's knowing that the levels are there. It's a realisation for the boys that they can do that. Now it's putting it together week in, week out, because it's really tough. And this league is showing that, one defeat and you'll drop away, a couple of wins and you get really close to it. There's probably 2 or 3 teams at the top running away now, but there's definitely 3 or 4 places really up for grabs in these playoffs. We want to be one of those, and I think consistency is going to play a big part in that.
And there seem to be so many, as we discussed before, so many teams sort of in and around where Wycombe are in the league, and Lincoln on Saturday, of course, another one who are only a couple of points behind.
Yeah, there's loads, there's loads. Don't write anyone off from about 17th at the moment, because anyone can make this. I think the bottom 4, there's about 5-point gap between them. But even some of those, if they have a run, you never know what can happen. But with 25 games, is it to go? Something like that, 24. So we've got so many points to play for that there's no way you could judge who's going to get there at the moment. And there's so many teams in this middle section. Like you say, Charlton have changed their manager recently. They're going to have a new manager coming. Will that boost them? And there's a lot of stuff. There's January transfer window to come through yet. So there's a hell of a lot of water to go under that bridge yet. We're only a couple of stops down the line. There's plenty more to go, and I think we've got to just keep consistent now. And it's good that I've seen some really, really cracking performances. Peterborough at home and Plymouth at home, even though we got beat. Portsmouth at home, There's a pattern there, isn't there? Anyone who starts with a P, we seem to do well at home with it. So we've got to make sure that we get these levels out every week. It's my job, totally my job, but I love my job, and I'll make sure they do it.
I've noted there's a P in Ipswich. Hopefully that still works as well.
I'll take that all day.
And obviously, just finally, really nice to hear from Andrew about your hospital visit during this week, and just fantastic to kind of see the power of football and what a difference it can make to young people in hospital as well.
Yeah, not just the young people, Colin, the nurses and the doctors as well. I thought they were saying thank you for coming in, because we bought some bottles of wine and chocolates in for them as well. And I thought that that was important to recognise the work they do, because they've had a real tough 2 or 3 years, haven't they? Real tough, and anyone who says that our emergency services don't deserve what they get, I'll front them up, because they are unbelievable people. They help us sleep at night. They look after our kids, our mums and dads, ourselves. They are fabulous people. And it's always, can we recognise them? And if a picture with the Wycombe players gets them in the newspaper, or gets the profile raised from these fantastic staff members, then that's brilliant. And on top of that, what a bonus to be able to put some smiles on some kids' faces with presents from Andy Harmon, who went out of his way, spent a lot of money on getting presents in just so he could make people feel better around the Christmas time after a few tough years. He went to shelters and hospitals around the place, and he deserves the plaudits for this one. We had the easy job turning up as the Wycombe players in our tracksuits, getting all the publicity, but Andy's done a brilliant job, and more than that, the nurses and the doctors in the local area, thank you so much. I know it's tough, and I know somebody will be working over Christmas, and I know that my boys, get paid a lot more for kicking a ball around, but you know, the value that you bring to the world and the local community is you know, just phenomenal. And so it was a real proud moment for us all to be involved. And every year we try and get involved with things like this. It's great that the community do, and hopefully, like I say, we can raise the profile of how fantastic these people are.
Great chat to the manager. That's it for the Wycombe Wanderers show for this week, which has been brought to you by the letter P. It's featured rather prominently, isn't it? Thanks to all the guests. Brilliant chat to Phil, to Jack Grimmer, and also to Stuart, of course, as well. Stuart Lewis, Jamie as well from Wycombe Wanderers Women. Just listing people we've spoken to now. And also to Andrew Harmon as well for his brilliant generosity and gesture as well. Hopefully the kids and staff at Wycombe Hospital will be able to enjoy Christmas a bit more as a result. Brilliant to have the manager on as always as well. Have a safe and enjoyable trip if you're going to Central Bank on Saturday. If you're not going, of course, we'll bring you live commentary here on 106.6 on Wycombe Sound, and it's on Wanderers TV as well, of course. See you back here same time next week for another Wycombe Wanderers show here at Wycombe Sound.